Come on in and welcome to the Coach's Seat. This podcast was created to give outsiders and non-coaches the opportunity to see what it's like to be inside the Coach's Seat. I'm your host, Jordan Plain, and thank you for tuning in. Today's episode is an episode, the pilot, to give you a self-introduction about who I am and how I began my journey. My journey started back in 2000 with my dad in the backyard of my grandparents' home on a small goal and a small pad where I learned how to play the game of basketball. There, the love of the game grew. There, I gained the skills and the motivation and the self-intent to become the player that I ended up becoming, which is a Louisiana State All-Star, 1,000-point scorer, and becoming the coach that I am today. In those backyard journeys, I learned how to motivate myself, how to push myself, and how to work. I learned hard work at a young age. My dad always believed in doing things the right way. So one thing that he always made sure of is that the height of the goal would be at the right height. So I'm not straining to shoot a jump shot. I'm not cocking the ball to shoot a jump shot, but that my form and the way that I shot the ball was proper. So I remember grabbing the broomstick from by the house and pushing the goal up and down as a young kid to make sure that it was at the right height so I can shoot. Growing up, I was a little overweight, so I always played the post position. And being a post, a lot of the times you don't work on guard skills. My dad always believed in me being an all-around basketball player. So I will always work on my ball handling, my shooting, all the intangible things that you need to become a complete player. That all paid off when in the fifth grade, I became the point guard of my school's basketball team. There, my love of the game grew even more, and I learned that yes, I could do the job, but more effort and more work had to be put in order for me to become the player that I wanted to be. So there, in sixth grade, the in sixth grade I became the league MVP of the league that we played in for my school. And at that game, I met my first basketball trainer, which is Quantus White. Quantus White took his time with a sixth grader, a 12-year-old, and taught him the game of basketball at a high level. I began playing, but I always played with my brothers who were 3, 4 years older than me, along with their friends. That helped me to be able to play at another level. It gave me the competitiveness to be the player that I always wanted to be. Starting off in middle school, I was able to play varsity basketball at a small local school. There, I learned how to play a position when you might not have been the most athletic, you might not have been the most skilled, but you had to find a way to find a niche inside the game in which you play. So moving on to eighth grade, where I have met one of the greatest coaches that I ever was coached by, which is Coach Van Chancellor. When I met Quantus White, I initially knew that the work that I had to put in was going to be totally different from anything I ever done. So I remember pulling up to Redemption's High gym where we had our first workout session. And boy, was I in for a treat. So man, just seeing Quantus and getting to know him, and he's different from anybody I ever met. He's from New Orleans. He has a different accent. The way that he carries himself, the way that he talks, is just totally different. Because I had always only played for my dad and maybe one other coach. So I get into the gym, and initially I feel the heat because Redemption didn't have any air conditioning. I feel the heat in the building, and I see cones, and I'm watching him work out another player that I knew growing up, and it was Skylar Mays and Stan Mays and Spencer Mays down there, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a workout. So I'm watching the workout, and he told us he was like, hey, baby, go ahead and stretch. So I'm like, oh man, we about to get into it. So from that point, I watched Quantus finish the workout with them. I got stressed out. And I didn't work out by myself that day. I worked out with my two other brothers. So we started off with some basic drills, and before I knew it, it got more intense and more intense. And it went from him counting the reps to it being unlimited amount of reps until he felt like you got the drill right. And after that workout, I understood what it meant to actually be a perfectionist. Being a perfectionist is how I became the coach that I am today. Understanding and knowing that, you know, it's not okay that it's not right. That you should want it to be as close to perfect as possible. Now we know we're human and it's not going to be perfect, but getting as close to perfect as possible is how you become the best athlete that you can be, as well as the best coach and the best person that you can be. So from that journey with starting to work out with Qantas White Eye, seventh grade, I went to the school and I played varsity basketball with my brothers, and we went to the semifinals, and I ended up going to university to U High. And at U High, I had started playing summer league with them, and I played JV basketball in the eighth grade at U High. I had a pretty good summer. I was under Coach Stephen Dale, and Stephen Dale was under Coach Joe Spencer. So that journey alone with an eighth grader playing against 10th, 11th graders in summer league kind of boosted not only my confidence, but it helped also gave me the green light that, okay, I can manage a team. I am good enough. So going into my eighth grade, I was excited. I was ready to play JV basketball and possibly even varsity basketball because I would get some reps for the high school. But because of my living attendance, I had to end up playing eighth grade basketball. Of course, I was bummed. I was upset, and I couldn't worry about it because I knew me being focused on what the goal at hand was more important than me being upset about me having to play only eighth grade ball. So I ended up playing eighth grade ball and not knowing who the coach was going to be. I thought it was going to be just Coach Nick. Well, come to find out, one of the players on the team, his grandfather is the Van Chancellor. Van Chancellor, NBA champion Van Chancellor. Coached at LSU and won championship, like that Van Chancellor, Final Four, that guy. So my first experience of meeting Van Chancellor was amazing. He was nice. He was a people person, like a true people person. You could truly see why he was unique when he's on camera, why he was able to be so successful as a coach. He found a way to motivate and keep focused and also be hard on a bunch of 14 and 13-year-olds and be able to really make an impact on our lives within a span of a few months. So I learned a lot from Van Chancellor. And then one of the things that he gave me before he left, he told me, that I can truly be anything that I wanted to be and that I could play at the highest level if I continue to work. So leaving that season, we had summer league going from eighth grade to ninth grade. I played for U High summer league again. This summer, I actually played varsity. I got varsity minutes and I got JV minutes. But some things didn't quite align with what me and my family had in place. And then too, I was so used to being at a Christian school that it was a little different me going to U High, and it's not a religious school, and I had been to a Catholic school or a Christian school my entire life. So I transferred to Christian Life where I started my ninth grade, where I didn't know what to expect. That summer, I had played summer league with Jonathan Stove and RJ, who went to Christian Life and were great players in the program, but I hadn't been around them enough to say that they were my brothers yet. So going into Christian Life as a ninth grader was a true shock because I wasn't used to that style and I wasn't used to that kind of school. But it was one of the greatest decisions I made in my life. As a basketball player, as a student, as a Christian, it truly helped me in every aspect of that. I ended up playing 2.5 years at Christian Life, where I started for the majority of my freshman year. I started my 10th grade year, and my junior year, I started some games, came off the bench until I transferred. But while at Christian Life, I learned what it truly meant to be a family. I learned what it truly meant to work hard. I thought I knew what it was like to work hard, coming from U High, but the way that the two coaches, the coaching styles were is totally different. Mark Cassio, the coach that I went to Christian Life to play underneath, he was more of a methodical guy, hardworking, made sure that he was overly prepared, made sure that you were prepared more than you thought that you were prepared, down to how are you going to guard this ball screen. This time we're going to blitz the screen, or next time we're going to fight over top and get in front of the ball as our big hedge, things like that. And I learned that as a ninth grader playing varsity basketball. One of my first experiences playing at Christian Life was we played in the Zachary tournament and we played Ruston. And my job that night was to guard the best player on Russell's team. Can't remember his name, but I remember the job. And all the things that led up to that moment, me playing seventh grade varsity basketball, me playing, for Van Chancellor, and me over the summer playing U High, JV, and varsity, those gave me the confidence and the ability to say, okay, I can do this job of guarding the best player on Russell's team, who's about 6'3", about 200 pounds, muscular, and he's a driver. So that freshman year truly brought me out of my shell as a player. And to have great guys like Jonathan Stowe, Malik Harris, Khalid, RJ, all those great guys. And I'm sorry if I'm missing a few, but to have them pushing you every day, that they wasn't satisfied with you being a practice player. And speaking of that, my 10th grade year, I struggled scoring on the varsity level because I wasn't used to, the style that we had adapted, as well as, Jonathan Stove. He's the guy. He's gonna get 20 shots a game, and that was fine with me. I knew my role. So one day at practice, I had a pretty good practice, and Stove looked at me and he called me a practice player. He said, "You're a practice player. You're doing all this at practice, and then when you get in the game, you're gonna take 3 shots." That challenged me from that point on to put my stamp on the game. What I mean by putting my stamp on the game, I mean as I'm not going to pass shots up. I'm going to be aggressive with my driving. I have the ability to do what I've been doing all this time. I'm going to actually do it. And from that moment on, I became a complete player. By Jonathan Stowe being at practice, challenging me and calling me a practice player. By RJ telling me, man, take the shot, shoot the ball. Guys being great teammates allowed for me to develop into the player I became. Now, junior year was a little rocky. I dislocated my shoulder for the second time. So then I became, I was on the injured reserve, and I had to go to PT. I had to do all of that. So coming into my junior year, off an injury, into a different style, a different team, things weren't the same. Me and Coach Dale, we both agreed, it'd be better that we part ways. So I ended up going to Family Christian Academy, which is a Class C school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Family Christian Academy is totally different from Christian Life. But one thing that I was very grateful for is I gained a best friend that I'm still friends with to this day, 2 of them. And I became truly a complete player. Because then at Family Christian, I had no one to rely on. I had no one that I can say, hey, well, I'm off tonight and I'm going to just pass you. I couldn't do that. There were no off nights. You had to be on every night. And if you're not on, you had to find a way to impact the game to make sure that your team can win. Now, most people think Class C, you're going to, play cupcake teams and you're going to play only Class C, Class B teams. No, when I say we played everybody, we played everybody. And it started that summer, my junior going into my senior year. That summer is when I truly became the player that I intended to be. But along that journey from 9th grade all the way through that 11th grade, I had great trainers. Not only my dad who worked me out, but I had Barry. I had Mike Williams. I had Jamar. All 3 of those guys made me the complete player that ended up scoring 1,000 points my senior year. All those coaches, all those trainers, everyone that pushed me along the way, Stephen Dell, Mark Cassio, Joe Spencer, Quantus White, Josh White, all those people made me who I end up being my senior year, which is a Louisiana State All-Star. And all of that just came with me working as hard as I can every day, putting in the work and not being afraid of the moment. So I graduated high school. I wanted to play college basketball. Things didn't work out my way. God had another plan. So I ended up getting into coaching. I started helping Jamie Holmes out at Baker. And I met Jamie Holmes because when I got to Family Christian, he had already been there. We had a prior history. He coached one of my brothers. So I got there with Jamie Holmes, and Jamie Holmes gave me the opportunity to be me. To the point that when I came there and I wanted to be a pass first point guard, and he was like, "You didn't come here to do that. You didn't come here to be a pass first point guard. You came here to be a player. You came here to put numbers on the board. I'm giving you the opportunity to put numbers on the board. You need to put numbers on the board, or you need to transfer." Literally, what he told me in front of the entire team. He said, "You need to put the ball up, or you need to transfer. That's the only reason you came here." So from that moment on, when he challenged me, I made sure that I put the ball in the goal. And if I wasn't putting the ball in the goal, I was making a play that was beneficial for the team. So my senior year, that's why I was able to do so. So fast forward to my first coaching job, I would go to Baker High after class, and when I was in college at Southern, I'll go to Baker High every day and help them work the team out. Dexter Dennis was there. I had known Dexter Dennis prior because me and Dexter Dennis played AAU together, and we worked out with the same trainer, EJ Avery. So helping Dexter out, trying to give him some skills that he needed to, just be a more efficient scorer, because it's easy to do a lot of stuff and, have some points. But to be an efficient scorer, you're finding ways to get buckets easier. You gotta, because for you to score a lot of points, you can't exert a lot of energy scoring a lot of points. You got to score a lot of points, exerting as less energy as possible. So one drill pull-ups, fast breaks, free throws, open shots, those kind of things you have to be pretty efficient on in order to become a complete scorer and an efficient scorer. So that was my job for Dexter Dennis that year. Now, that next year, I ended up going to help Harold Boudreaux at McKinley, where at McKinley we had Tyrese Rafford. Tyrese Rafford. He's that guy. I watched Tyrese literally take on games by himself and never complain, never quit, and literally put the team on his back and made it happen. Along with some key guys that he had, Tyrese Rafford made it happen. So McKinley allowed for me to become a coach by Harold Boudreaux giving me the JV team. A 19-year-old. I was 19 when I started. Harold Boudreaux gave a 19-year-old the opportunity to coach a JV basketball team by himself. I'm literally only 3 to 4 years older than the kids that I'm coaching. Harold Boudreaux gave me that opportunity, and we had some great games. We played Catholic. We played St. Michael's. We played Episcopal. We played great programs. And I was able to play and put that stamp on my career. So I ended up getting my second coaching job here at Mentorship, where I fell in love from day one. I liked the fact that it was a need that needed to be met, and somebody had to do it. So when I came in at Mentorship under Coach Roshan Jacobs, my guy, what ended up happening is he said, "Hey, Jordan, I'm going to teach you how to be a head coach. These are the things that you need. I'm going to let you run the practices. I'm going to let you come up with game plans. You're going to learn how to be a head coach." And he literally gave me the keys and never looked back. So when I did become the head coach here at Mentorship after 3 years, that Ro gave me that opportunity. He said, "Hey, I'm going to put your name in. I want you to become the next head coach at Mentorship. I've been training you. Here you go." When I became the head coach at Mentorship, I hit the ground running. And I used everything that I learned from my dad, Coach Spencer, Quantus White, Coach Stephen Dale, Mark Cassio, Van Chancellor, all of those people combined into one. Coach David Costello, who was my coach my senior year, rest in peace. All of those people to combine into the coach that I am today. And that's how I became Jordan Plain, the head basketball coach at Helix Mentorship Academy. I instilled those same values, that same work ethic, the same compassion, and the love for the game. All of that, all of those things that were developed literally in the backyard of my grandparents' house, till playing high school basketball and all the training to become the coach that I am today. One of the things that I teach my kids each and every day, or that I remind them of, I say you have to play as hard as you can for as long as you can. Because you never know when your time is going to end. You never know when you're going to get an opportunity again. But while you got that opportunity, you have to seize it. You have to make the most of it, and you have to buy into whatever that is that's in place. Because once you buy in and you give it your all, you will see the fruits of your labor. But if you shy away, you don't take the opportunity serious, you're going to waste that opportunity. You don't know if you'll get it again. That's what I mean about playing as hard as you can for as long as you can. Being truly bought into yourself. Not to be selfish, but to be bought in so much to yourself that I'm willing to do everything it takes for this team to be successful. That's my journey. Hi, how you doing? This is your coach, Jordan Plain. from the Coach's Seat podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is created to give everybody the opportunity to see what it's like to be in the Coach's Seat. You can follow us on all social media platforms at the Coach's Seat. Remember, the door is always open. I'll talk to you soon.